For more than 200 years, the Vikings were a force of destruction. They raided Lindisfarne in 793. They burned monasteries across Francia. They extorted English kings for silver. But raiding is not ruling. And ruling requires something the early Viking leaders did not yet possess: structure. In the early 11th century, one Scandinavian ruler transformed Viking expansion into something far more dangerous: an empire. An empire that controlled England, Denmark, and Norway, connected not by land, but by the sea. His name was Knut, and what he built was the North Sea Empire. The political situation before Knut England in the late 10th century was politically fragile. King Ethelred II faced constant Scandinavian pressure. Rather than consistently defeating invaders, he often paid them off. These payments, known as Danegeld, drained England's treasury. At the same time, Scandinavian politics were changing. Denmark under Harald Bluetooth and later Sweyn Forkbeard became more centralized. Christianization strengthened royal authority. Kings were no longer just warlords, they were state builders. Sweyn Forkbeard saw opportunity in England's weakness. In 1013, he launched a full-scale invasion. Within months, England submitted. Ethelred fled to Normandy. This was not a raid, it was regime change. But Sweyn died suddenly in 1014. Power in England collapsed into uncertainty. Knut, his son, was proclaimed king by the Danish army, but the English nobility rejected him. Ethelred returned. Knut withdrew to Denmark. At this moment, Knut could have remained a regional Danish ruler. Instead, he prepared for systematic conquest. The Second Invasion. Strategy, not chaos. In 1015, Knut returned with a large fleet. This was not random Viking violence. It was coordinated warfare. He targeted strategic regions: Wessex for political legitimacy, Mercia for economic strength, Northumbria for military positioning. He built alliances with discontent English nobles. Some defected to him. England was divided internally. Knut exploited that division. After Ethelred's death in 1016, Edmund Ironside became king. Edmund fought aggressively. Several battles were fought that year. The decisive clash came at Asundun. Knut's forces won. Historians debate whether betrayal played a role. What matters is the result. England was divided briefly between Edmund and Knut. Weeks later, Edmund died. Knut inherited full control. Consolidation of power. Conquest creates instability. Knut understood this. He did not dismantle Anglo-Saxon governance. He preserved the shire system. He relied on existing tax structures. He kept English administrators in place. But he reorganized power at the top. He divided England into 4 major earldoms: Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, East Anglia. These were governed by powerful earls loyal to him. Some were Danish, some were English. He eliminated potential rivals early, but once secure, he reduced military presence. This reduced resentment. Then came one of his most strategic decisions: marriage to Emma of Normandy. Emma was not just a widow, she was a political bridge. Through her, Knut connected himself to the previous royal line. He strengthened ties with Normandy, crucial for preventing invasion from across the Channel. He also secured legitimacy through the church. Knut supported monasteries. He made donations. He positioned himself as a Christian king. This stabilized rule over a Christian population. The Danish throne. In 1018, Knut's brother Harald died. Knut became king of Denmark. Now he ruled 2 major kingdoms. England was wealthy. Denmark was militarily strong. Control of both gave him command over the North Sea trade routes. The sea was no longer a highway for raiding. It was infrastructure for governance. Ships connected administration. Ships moved tax revenue. Ships projected power quickly across distances. This maritime flexibility gave Knut an advantage over landbound rulers. Norway and the final expansion. Norway was unstable under King Olaf II. Olaf faced internal opposition from regional leaders. Nut applied pressure gradually. He supported Olaf's enemies. He leveraged naval dominance. In 1028, Nut invaded Norway with a powerful fleet. Olaf fled. Nut took control. At its height, the North Sea Empire controlled England, Denmark, Norway. He placed trusted figures to govern in his absence. But the center of gravity remained England. London became a key hub. Diplomacy and European recognition. Nut was not isolated in Scandinavia. In 1027, he traveled to Rome. He attended the coronation of Holy Roman Emperor Conrad II. This was symbolic, a Viking ruler standing among Europe's established monarchs. He negotiated protections for English pilgrims. He improved trade conditions. He acted as a European statesman. This was transformation, from raider to recognized king. Why the empire worked? The North Sea Empire functioned because it controlled key maritime routes. It integrated local elites instead of replacing them entirely. It balanced military strength with administrative continuity. It maintained religious legitimacy. It was not purely Scandinavian, it was hybrid. Anglo-Scandinavian. This cultural blending stabilized rule. Why it collapsed? Nut died in 1035. His empire depended heavily on personal authority. Succession became contested. His sons Harald Harefoot and Harthacnut struggled to maintain unity. Norway broke away. Denmark destabilized. England eventually returned to native rule under Edward the Confessor. By 1066, England faced a new crisis, and the legacy of Scandinavian rule would shape that year profoundly. Without Nut's empire, the political landscape leading to the Norman conquest would have looked very different. Conclusion. The North Sea Empire was brief, roughly 2 decades at full strength, but its significance was enormous. It proved that Viking expansion could evolve. It showed that maritime power could unify kingdoms. It demonstrated that conquest without governance collapses, but conquest combined with adaptation builds something lasting. For a short time, the North Sea was not a frontier. It was the center of European power. And at its center stood Nut, not merely a Viking, but an emperor of the sea. Nut's empire did not survive the century. But for a moment in history, the North Sea was not a border. It was the center of power. And men who once came as raiders left as rulers. If you want to explore more moments where power shifted, where empires rose and fell, subscribe and leave a like to support the channel. The tide always turns.